Just briefly, as I've done a bit of the presentation, a couple of things on BNP Paribas. We're 5,100 people in Europe, and we have 13 different countries with 2 platforms. So we have an office in Asia, in Dubai, in Hong Kong, and Singapore, and we basically work at bringing capital into Europe. In terms of my actual team, I run a cross-border team of 30 people, headquartered in Paris, with offices in London, in Amsterdam, in Frankfurt, and also, as mentioned, Dubai, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And we look at joining the dots and generally bringing investors into the markets. So, just to talk about the markets in general. In terms of investment volumes, again, record year and record second quarter 2018, 268 billion euros, an increase again from the quarter of 2017. And interestingly, if you look at the various markets on the right, a big jump in investment volumes in the UK, despite what's happening with Brexit. Germany, still a huge market and big deals going on across all the main markets. France, some interesting figures as well, increase in investment volumes. Netherlands, a very interesting market which is the 3rd biggest market in Europe at the moment, with almost 18 billion euros of investment. So positive signs across the investment markets in terms of volumes. Yield levels, these are office prime yields. As we've seen, they have reached record lows all across the markets, and compression everywhere apart from in the UK. I mean, for the first time, we're seeing German yields below Paris, below London. So there is still this weight of investment, and there are still deals going on at these levels. However, this is just a quick slide on the actual office market. We're still seeing some very good take-up. We're seeing low vacancy levels, and in most markets, on the bottom here, we're seeing rental values that are still below their peaks. We're going to go and speak obviously a bit more on logistics, on retail, on all the other markets. But just to really say that for the main cities, France, Germany, and the UK, that the fundamentals are good, and vacancy levels are very low as well. So where's the money coming from? I think this is going to be one of the interesting topics that we're going to speak about. As you see, roughly half the investment volumes in Europe are from cross-border investors. The main investors being from Europe, over almost 40% of investment volumes, especially the Germans and the French investors. The US has remained stable and is historically the second largest area where investors have come in. Asia Pacific has been the big story. As you see, 30% increase in 2017. It was a 100% increase, and we'll have some more details, and we'll speak a bit more on actual deals. And Middle East, I think a recovery after what happened with the Qatar situation, and some renewed interest from Middle East investors in the market. So I'll just go in quickly and talk about 3 or 4 of the major cross-border investment investors. So first, European. As I said before, especially the German funds and the French investors have still remained strong. If you see on the right, 14% increase from 2014, and a real spread around the European markets. A lot of investment in Germany, in the Netherlands, in France, but also in other markets, including the UK and the Nordics. And just looking at a few deals here, we won't go through all of them, but as you see, interesting deals from the likes of Deca, Amundi still in the market, Generali, Foncier des Régions, interestingly buying a large portfolio there as well. If we look at the North American, as I said, traditionally the largest investors outside Europe, it's remained flat. As you see, a big amount of investment in 2015, and now really flat, and again fairly well positioned across the market. And the 2 biggest investors, I mean, the biggest cross-border investment is Blackstone by far. The second biggest CBRE Global Investors. And as you see from this slide, a number of interesting deals from JP Morgan, CBRE Global Investors, Prupim. So there are still definitely buyers from the US as well as vendors as well. I think Blackstone especially have been doing selling and buying as well on the markets. Asia Pacific, as I mentioned, huge increase, so 44% increase from 2014 in terms of investment volume, really being focused on London. There have been deals across the European markets, and we've seen the South Korean, we've seen the Singaporean REITs, but the real big highlight deals are London, and LaSalle will mention earlier that big deal that they've done with Goldman Sachs there. So some real big trophy assets in the city, but also a fair share of investment throughout the European markets. Some of the deals here. As I mentioned, LaSalle working for NPS in the big city deal, CK, Hobie, Mireille, all basically coming back to the city, but there are deals across Europe, and we worked on the Capital Land deal in Frankfurt, the Galileo Tower. If you look further on down, you've got other South Korean investors that have been active. Vestas, for instance, who we've worked on with a couple of deals, logistics deals in Poland there. So the real, probably sort of the most exciting investment and investors have been from the Asia Pacific region. Finally, the Middle East. I've just got one slide on this. As I mentioned, there was a bit of a dip in 2017, and this was quite linked to the boycott of Qatar. But now things are moving better, and there are big Middle Eastern investors looking a lot at the UK, seeing that as a play with yields moving up.